Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So obviously we've had the announcement for Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color games coming to Nintendo Switch Online. So I want to talk about some of the Game Boy Advance games I would love to see come to Nintendo Switch Online. So let's take a look at what games I've chosen. First one then is 007 Everything or Nothing. Now you've got to think about back in the day when we had the Game Boy Advance. We only had 4 buttons, bear in mind. And I actually think they did pretty well with this game. It's not the best looking game, but actually there's a few kind of sneaking about things. The shooting's actually not too bad. It's actually quite a fun game, to be honest with you. I know you're going to have all the licensing issues and things like that, but I just wanted to throw in this game because actually it is a little bit underrated when you look back at the limits of the Game Boy Advance. So first one then is 007 Everything or Nothing. Next up then we've got Tony Hawk's 2 for the Game Boy Advance. I just love this game. I basically just used to spend my time just grinding because I couldn't really pull off any other tricks on the Game Boy Advance. It was much easier when you were playing on PS2. But I just had a lot of fun. This is just for nostalgia. I know we've already got those old games already on the Switch anyway, but I just remember because it was licensed or owned by Activision, you used to be able to unlock SpiderMan. So I just used to love playing as SpiderMan. It was so much fun. But yeah, this is more nostalgia because we've already got these games anyway, so I can't see this one ever happening, to be honest with you. Okay, so this one is Banjo and Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. So by this point, in terms of Rare, they had been bought by Microsoft, and then there was a publishing deal that they signed with THQ to then publish the games they'd made for Nintendo for the Game Boy Advance. So I don't know, there's a lot of kind of and ahhing whether or not they would actually be able to bring this to Nintendo Switch Online. I don't know whether THQ would have to be involved or whether or not those publishing rights have finished, or would it be a case of Nintendo have to come up with some sort of deal again to talk to Microsoft. There's a lot of question marks, but I think of all the games on this list, I think this is probably number one that would be likely to happen. It was a really, really fun game. If you ever get a chance to play this, if you're a fan of kind of adventure games, platformer adventure games, you will really enjoy this one. It's a little bit more expensive now, but that's why I say hopefully, fingers crossed, they're able to come up with some sort of deal and get this over to Nintendo Switch Online, just to give people the opportunity who never got a chance to play this, who loved Banjo and Kazooie, a chance to play this game. Next up then is Banjo Pilot. So this is where kind of politics and gaming politics, it can just ruin things for the consumer and for just people who want sequels to happen that never happen, because this should have been Diddy Kong Racing 2, but there was issues with the quality of the game, and then Microsoft purchased obviously Rare, so Rare then lost the licenses to use the characters from the Donkey Kong series and the Mario series, so we ended up with Banjo Pilot. It is still a really fun game, but obviously it doesn't have that same kind of feeling, sensation that you probably would have got had we been able to kind of play as, you know, Diddy Kong and the rest of those people. So it was a massive shame that all that happened, but if you did miss it, this is another one of those games that probably quite likely to happen in the future. I think it's more dependent probably on the relationship with THQ and the publishing issues with that. But I could see Microsoft allowing this game to come over to the Game Boy Advance, Nintendo Switch Online. It is such a shame that we've never had that Diddy Kong Racing sequel. This is probably the closest that we are likely to ever get with that. So it is a bit of a shame, but it's another one of those games if you're out shopping and you see this in a shop, CEX or a charity shop, do pick this up if you've still got a Game Boy Advance. But, fingers crossed we get some more of those games coming to Nintendo Switch Online. The next game basically has zero chance of coming to Nintendo Switch Online, but one of my favourite kind of Marvel tie-in games, and this is Ultimate Spider-Man for the Game Boy Advance. You got to play as both Venom and Spider-Man, and they all had different abilities and ways of working. Such a great game. When you played as Venom, your health bar slowly went down, and you had to eat people to regain health. And you obviously had, web shooters, things like that, as well as Spider-Man. But just graphically, it actually looks really great. Still holds up really well because of the cartoon style graphics. But yeah, the chance of this ever happening, ever coming to any other system now is pretty much zero because of obviously Sony owning the rights to all the games and it making far too much money for them. So this is one that if you like how it looks in the video, you're going to have to kind of search around and try and find a copy of this, but well worth picking up if you're a Game Boy Advance fan or you like Spider-Man. Really, really fun game, this one. The next one up then is Crash Bandicoot, The Huge Adventure, which, correct me if I'm wrong, do write in the comments, this was the first Crash Bandicoot game not to actually come to PlayStation consoles. And again, I can't believe how much content they managed to actually fit on a Game Boy Advance cartridge. So many different levels, and it's just a great Crash Bandicoot game. I can't see a reason for this game not to come over to Nintendo Switch Online. With some of these games, it's not that they're the very best Game Boy Advance games. It's just, if we're paying a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, I just want to see a huge library of games. So some of the games on this list are just, they are great games, and I would love to see just the library expanded. So maybe some of the companies who made these old games can speak to Nintendo and say, hey, let's put some of these old games into the library. Let's expand the library as much as we can, rather than just, old Nintendo games. So I'd love to see some Crash Bandicoot in there. I know we've got the Insane Trilogy, I know we've got 4, but this is just, again, it's a bit more nostalgia for those people who had it on the Game Boy Advance as well. This one is called Donkey Kong King of Swing. The reason this has to go on Nintendo Switch Online is because it is one of the hardest games ever. You use the L and the R buttons to move left and right, to also jump and also to swing. And you have to press L and R at the right times to be able to climb and swing. It is so complicated. I know Nintendo love to kind of reinvent the wheel. They do not like using just jump and things like that. So it's interesting what they've done here, but this game is so difficult. I did not enjoy this at all. So the reason I want this on Nintendo Switch Online is so that people can try to play this game. Did you have this game? Did you think it was as hard as I found it? Because I found it incredibly difficult to play. Next up then is Duke Nukem Advance. There's not too much to really say about this game. It just follows that classic style of first-person shooters from, 25 plus years ago. It is a really fun game. It's nice and simple. I know there are some Duke Nukem games on the Switch already. I don't think this is one of them, but again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I can't see a reason not to add this to the library. It's a well-loved game. I know the series is well-loved. Like I say, they've brought out some of the older games as well. Just a classic game to have in that Game Boy Advance library, I think. There's not too much else to say really about this one. This one then is a beat 'em up, so Jackie Chan Adventures, so taken from the cartoon back from the mid 2000s, I think it was. Love the cartoon, and actually this is probably one of the best looking games I think on the Game Boy Advance. Again, huge licensing issues, Activision, you got to speak to Jackie and things like that, so I don't think this is likely to come over, but arguably one of my favourite beat 'em ups because I like the cartoon, but the game is actually so well made. So if you do get the chance to play this, can't recommend this one highly enough. So fingers crossed, we might get lucky and it might appear on the Nintendo Switch Online in the future. Who knows? I think genuinely the Rugrats video game series is so underrated. There are so many good Rugrats games, and this one again just proves that I'm absolutely right. Rugrats Castle Capers, such an awesome platformer. Honestly, you've got to play this. It still looks great as well. Really nice game. Can't recommend this one enough. So basically you take control of Tommy or Chucky or whoever you want to be. You can actually play as Dill as well. And you basically have to get your toys back from Angelica, obviously completing various platforming levels as you go through. But it's just a fantastic game. THQ actually published so many fantastic games on the Game Boy Advance. So if someone can get hold of that THQ library and they want to bring it all over to Nintendo Switch Online, please do, because there are some absolutely fantastic games, and this is another one, Rugrats Castle Capers. The last one then, and I think this trilogy will come over to Nintendo Switch Online, and that is the Sonic Advance series. So yeah, they did make 3 games of this. We know that Sega and Nintendo do work well together. We've got lots of Sonic games over on the Nintendo Switch. So I think this will just be a matter of time before we see these 3 games over on the Switch. And really great Sonic games. They look really good. The colours as well look fantastic. The art style holds up really well. So I just think it's a matter of time before the Sonic Advance trilogy gets put on Nintendo Switch Online. This has just been a fun video for me. Haven't gone into too much detail. A few of these games are very unlikely to come. Some obviously more likely, but I just wanted to talk about some games that I'd love to see put onto Nintendo Switch Online. And I'd really love to hear your opinions. Let's avoid those games that we know are going to come across, and let's talk about some of those kind of underrated hidden gems for the Game Boy Advance. And thank you so much for watching. If you're new, hit subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Thank you, guys. Take care.